Did the Sweat for Vets Powerclimb 10K today. Finished third overall in 55:07, I think was my time. Second, third, and fourth, we all finished within like 10 seconds of each other, or 5 seconds, somewhere in that range. We were battling like pretty much the whole race. Matt Livesey came and he won by like 6-7 minutes. But this year's the course was a lot different than previous years. Didn't know what to expect. Well, I expected the previous year's courses this year. So I was gearing up for that, and like mentally I had a plan for like the previous year courses. I didn't realize it changed. So like the whole race I had to replan, re-strategize like the whole time. But I did GoPro it today because I knew Matt was coming, and I was like, there's no way I could win. So I was like, I'm gonna GoPro it, just to video the course a little bit. Well, so we still started at the same spot. We actually hit the road for like 0.8 miles, I think is what it was on my watch. And then we turned onto the power line and basically went straight up it. I mean, granted, we did go a little bit, side to side and not like completely straight up, but we weren't hitting any woods like we did before. Again, it's a completely new course this year. So by the time we got to the top of the hill, like 2 miles in, we were at 1,220 feet, I think is what I had on my watch. So 2 miles, 1,220 feet is a hell of a way to start a race. Well, from the gate, Livesey took off. There was some younger kid that took off. Then I jumped, like I was in third. Then by the time we hit the power line, I was in second. I was feeling pretty comfortable early on going up the hill, maybe 20-30% of, finishing it. Then some guy passed me after that. And I was like, whatever. Just keep him in striking distance. We'll see him later, like once it gets flat. Because I was just still thinking, like, we'll have like 2 miles of flatness later. I'll let him do the hills and then I'll, run hard on the flat stuff. But he might have had a minute or two on me by the time we got to the top of the hill, and I was fine with that. I was like, whatever, being videoing and shit like that, it does slow me down a little bit, and I wasn't going to burn up early on in the race because I figured, I could turn it on later. Then we hit the top of the hill. I did have like a minute, I would say probably on 4th place at the time. He actually finished, the guy who was behind me then actually finished second. But then when we hit the top, we started going into the woods, like the first time actually hitting some trails. We got like really rocky really quickly. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, all right, don't hurt yourself, don't twist an ankle. Just try to maintain now and keep people within striking distance until you can actually turn it on a little bit later on in the race. Well, a couple minutes on the trail, I got passed and put in the 4th place. I was like, oh, all right, whatever, we'll just get them later. Just don't do nothing stupid now, just stay within yourself. So that's what I was trying to do, just like maintain on that semi-flat top of the hill section. We did go down a little bit. It was kind of hard to read at times. They had plenty of markings on the rocks and stuff as you're looking down. It was just hard to run on those big rocks because you basically had to stand and run on the top of corners of the rocks. Plus you're trying not to fall and get hurt while you're trying to watch where to go. So there's a little bit of trickiness there, don't fall, don't twist an ankle, but try to run hard and try to keep people in visual distance. There was a few turns, and I just happened to look down a little bit, and second and third were pretty close to each other. I saw the one guy in the red shirt who was second, who beat me on the hill. He got passed. But I mean, I was still in fourth at the time. So those two switched positions. And then as we started on the downhill, like in the older section that we used to run up, that's what we were going down this year. Actually caught third place. I was on him for a little bit. He asked me about passing. I was like, not yet. But then once we hit this nicer section, he stepped off, and then I went around him. And I was like, all right. It got a little bit easier after that, so I started turning on a little bit what I could. And then we actually hit like an access road, and I was like, all right, time to turn and burn a little bit, put some gap in between us, because I was in third at the time. I wanted to try to gap fourth as much as possible. Then we actually hit the power line again, but this time we popped out maybe halfway down it, if that, and then we just ran down to the road again, and I was just booking it the whole way down to the road section. I wasn't redlining, but I was going, I would say, a little bit above tempo to that red line mark. I just didn't want to blow up, because we were still maybe only like 3-ish miles into the race, and I was like three and a half probably to go. You don't know what's coming, because everything's changed at this point. So you don't want to like red line, blow up, and then not have anything. So I was running that fine line. And here we popped out onto the road and went the opposite direction for maybe a half mile. I was like, oh, this sucks. It did suck, because I was wearing trail shoes. I'll get to that later. But I had maybe like 10 seconds on fourth place. Saw Lipsy coming back. I was like, oh, so this must be an out and back, so we're not hitting the woods again. So I went to the turn, had that like 10-second lead for fourth. Maybe second place had 30 on me. I was like, all right, time to do some work, because I figured we were going to be doing the road section for at least that another half mile. But I figured it was going to be a little bit farther, probably a mile, because there wasn't any other flagging except for where we turned up the power line. So we're not going to hit the power line again, so I just figured we had a good mile of road, so now was the time to turn it on a little bit, close the gap, see what I could do. And then I was thinking that we're just going to head back the same exact way we started. So it's like, all right, just gradually catch them as much as you can, and then like that last eighth of a mile that you know where we turned up the power line, readjust and go from there. That's what I was doing. I was like, all right, if you keep them close and you start gaining on them that last eighth of a mile, or 8/10 of a mile, that's where the work's going to be done, and see what you're made of. I did close the gap. He wasn't looking behind him at all, and I was using that to my advantage. I was like, all right, I'm just going to creep on him. He was on the left-hand side of the road. I was too, but I was trying to tuck in a little bit closer to the curve, so that way if he did look back, he might not have seen me. And I was trying to, there was a few vehicles along the road. I was trying to use them as cover as well. And I do know fourth place was catching on me a little bit. I didn't want him to know at the time, but I knew he was catching on me, just because I did turn my head just slightly, and I could just barely glance and see him getting a little bit closer, and I was like, all right, he's turning it on as well. Hoping I don't see him coming, but I was prepared for that behind me. But I was more focused on catching second place at the time. And I was really gaining on him. I almost passed him. I would have passed him on the road if we finished the same way we started. But we ended up turning to the left at this one gate. There was a couple volunteers directing us, which I didn't know that, because there was really no flagging on the way out at this gate. They just had the volunteers there on the way back to point us in the right direction. As he turned to the left to take the gate, go around the gate, I was like right on his ass. But at the same time, I was a little bit worried because the energy I was using was for us to be going back the same way we started. And I was like, oh shit, looking at my watch, I was like, all right, so if this is a true 10K now, I got another mile or 1.2 miles to go. I just used up a lot of energy. I really don't have that. So I sort of pulled back a little bit, but I still gained on him. It was closing the gap. I don't think he really knew I was behind him yet until I was like on him within like a car's length. I was like, all right, I got him. And I looked back and I had a nice little, I have a couple second gap from fourth. I was like, all right, the way you feel right now, you can do this, you can take second. So I did push it a little bit harder. I didn't overtake him. I only held it for maybe 10-15 seconds. We did this little creek crossing, and that's where I lost second place. As I jumped across the creek, like when my foot landed, it just jarred my stomach just enough where it started to like turn my stomach, and I started like choking and like wanting to puke. And I'm like, oh shit, don't do this now, because we're, you know, only a couple of tenths from the finish line. You're gonna blow the race. And I was just worried about that because the fourth was just so close behind me. I was like, if I stop and puke or, you know, try to slow down my choking, I was like, I'm going to be overtaken. I'm not going to be able to like regain it. So I just pushed through it somehow. But I lost second place. I was now in third. I just kept pushing. And then we made the right-hand turn to go around the pond or lake or whatever. I guess it's a pond because it's kind of small. I got recovered from puking because I did spit up something, whatever was left in my stomach. It wasn't much. I just feel like a little bite or chunk or two as I like it just came out. Luckily I missed a volunteer. I almost hit a volunteer, turned my head just in time, but I recovered. I was able to finish around the pond and take it in. Again, second, third, and fourth, we're all within 10 seconds of each other. I think I was 5 seconds from second, and third was maybe 5 seconds, or fourth was like within 5 seconds of me. So whatever. If I wasn't GoProing, I could have pushed a little bit more early on. I was more worried about the shaking of it. And actually the whole time I was worried about the battery changing. I was like, at some point I'm going to have to change it. Is it going to slow me down? So I just said the hell with it, because we were like battling. I figured I had like 50-55 minutes on the battery. I was like, but you'll just have to refilm it, and that's what I did. A little bit after the turnaround on the road, I ended up having to change the, go back and refilm that last like mile-ish section. So I missed the battle at the last mile because of it. But I think the battery died a lot quicker today because of the shaking and the bouncing. Just trying to keep the video more focused and stabilized, so that's what'll happen. Because it should have lasted 55 minutes to an hour, but only lasted like 46-47 minutes. Well, it cut out at 47, so whatever. It was a hell of a battle today. Like, even though we might not have been close early on, but just the way I would say the three of us, second, third, and fourth, all used our strengths and took different positions throughout the race depending on our strength. Like the guy who finished in fourth, he was like a really good hill climber. Second place was a good downhill guy. Then like me, once I hit that road, and like the easier access road, like I just flew through that. But it was really fun. Like, I enjoyed that battle and stuff today. I'm happy with third. Would have been nice to take second, but as I always say, there's really no difference between me, well, for me, like between second and third. But today I would have liked it second. like being right behind like Lipsy in the standings. My legs felt good. I did walk most of the power line, as you'll see in the video, but I wasn't trying to like burn myself up early on. It just didn't make any sense, because I just figured later in the race, after we're done with the power line, I could do my work. So that's why I didn't go harder there. I would have wore, looking back now, if I knew the course, I would have wore road shoes, like my trainers and stuff. It would have gave me a lot more speed than my Peregrine trail shoes. Like, there's being half the, like, I would say like half the course or more was on road. They really like hurt me more than helped me today. And then even like on the big boulders and even going up the power lines, it would have been easier to have like road shoe like flatness on the bottom, just to stick a lot more, than have spikier shoes like the like actual trail shoe Peregrines, like with lugs and stuff. Even though they're not big, just not being able to stick as much on the rocks as some of my road shoes were a disadvantage. So again, looking back, I would have went with road instead of trail. If I really wanted to go for top 3, I wouldn't have filmed it today, because as I always tell people, it does slow me down. It makes me change my stride a little bit, so my head's more stabilized during the race, and I'm more focused on the GoPro staying steady than actual racing for a lot of times. I do like the older course better, where it's more trail. I find that more fun. We still had like 1,500 feet of gain and descent. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but we started out again and we went 1,200 feet basically before we hit any kind of descent. 1,220 before any kind of descent. So you have to check out the video to see the new Sweat for Vets 10K course. We didn't see the 5K people at all until that last like 1/10 of a mile into the finish. Weather was beautiful today. It was like 50. Couldn't ask for better November weather. Sometimes it's really cold up there, which sucks. Trying to think what else. That might be about it. Good food afterwards. Got a cool award. Actually got like a half a tray of barbecue chicken to take home. Did wear my Only Athletics jersey today for the race. Might have been able to go shirtless. Would have given me a couple more seconds advantage. But I really didn't know how my legs were going to hold up, because this is the first time I've hit trail in a couple months, and then have like that kind of elevation in a race setting. I wasn't sure they were actually going to hold up, but they did. Kind of excited about that. Again, I'm getting back in shape, and I'm not nowhere near speed wise or, you know, race ready as I should be or could be. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, it sucked at sometimes, just like being on the road, but at the same time, I enjoyed the battle, even though early on it kind of drug a little bit. But once I got more into like a race mentality later on, I really enjoyed it. Like the second half of the race, like after the field basically filled each other out, and I knew I had a shot at like for sure for top 3. Just trying to maintain and keep people in visual distance, like those little things that I was working on today during a race to help me later on in other races, just make me better. The downhills did suck on that, like the rocky boulder section, because they did blow the like they did try to blow the leaves and stuff off the course, but I mean it did expose the rocks, but the rocks were like pointed and weirdly shaped, so you didn't always get to step on top of the rocks. You had to like go in between and in the crevices, and then once you stuck your foot in a crevice in the leaves, you might have went down another, you know, 6 inches to 12 inches, and I don't know how many times where I went to step, like all of a sudden like I was a foot lower, my knee was like buckling a little bit more because it's like the rock that I did hit at the bottom like twisted my knee a little bit, so I'm definitely going to be a little bit sore in the joints tomorrow around the knees and probably hip flexors. And that would be my complaint, is I didn't get to be able to, like, on the downhill, be able to see as much as I would like to have seen in between the rocks. There was plenty of volunteers on the course today, probably like every 100 yards or so, in the rocky sections, in case somebody, like, I'm assuming in case somebody twisted an ankle or something, they could get to them real quick. I don't know. It's just a good atmosphere up there, and I always enjoy like being around the people. Even though I only knew like a handful of people today compared to past years, that was really disappointing today. The representation from like the Johnstown and Indiana areas, especially Johnstown, the trail runner people in Johnstown like were nowhere to be found today. So that was really disappointing, and like the turnout perspective. But other than that, I enjoyed the crowd and had a good time, and if I can, I'd go back again next year and support the vets. You get the cool challenge coin wherever I put it right now. I have no idea. That's one of the things. That's one of the cool things about the race is when you cross the finish line. Let's see if I can find it. I know it's going to be up in this front seat. I don't know if you can see it real good right now, but they actually have a veteran of the armed forces, you know, like shake your hand and have the coin in their hand as they shake it. So that's really one of the unique things that I really enjoy about the races, how they handle that. Like a veteran actually like gives you your challenge coin for finishing the race at the finish line and stuff. So just one of those little things that, you know, somebody might say, oh, that doesn't make a big, you know, nothing too big, but to me that's one of the huge things that I like about the race. It just makes the experience so much better, and makes it so much more enjoyable, like having those veterans at the finish line handing out the coins and stuff like that. Just there's just something special about that I really do enjoy. So other than that, check out the video. I'll have it up in a couple of days, and yeah, see you guys soon.